Lately, I've been doing a lot of ACEOs, or art cards, editions, and originals, or also known as ATCs, or artist trading cards. It's just what it's called on eBay and online, really. The original point of them was to be able to trade them from one artist to another. I suppose they get started in the 90s, is from my understanding. And anyway, I wanted to start doing some of my own at the behest of my wife, and I got kind of hooked on them. They're kind of fun to do. They're very challenging because they're super, super small. They're 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And I was kind of feeling, to quote Stone Temple Pilots, I was feeling a bit uninspired. So I went out in our local area to get some reference photos. So I had something to paint for a while. I've been doing like a lot of birds and things because they're colorful, and I was testing a lot of colored pencils and stuff on these ATCs, the artist trading cards. And I just felt like, I needed to switch it up a little bit. And funny enough, I did actually get a reference for an osprey because there was an osprey right in this area. This is a preserve park really close to us, and it's kind of small. I guess you used to be able to kayak and stuff in it, but the marsh is really low. There's like almost no water over there right now. We've been in sort of a drought. I mean, the main river is fine, but the little side creeks and stuff like that, like I said, the marsh is kind of dried up, which is what I'm painting here. It's kind of just a random shot of the marsh. I decided to try to use, this is acrylics. I had used, before this one, I actually tried gouache, and it was actually much easier to use on the cards. It didn't buckle as much. It's not as much water, I suppose. And this paint's been sitting in my refrigerator for quite some time because I have a stay wet palette that it does actually preserve the paint for quite a long time. It does a really, really good job. Worth the investment if you don't paint very often, which I don't. And so saves the paint without having it to dry up, and doesn't dry on your canvas and stuff because it's just a little paper. If you don't know what the stay wet palette is, it's just a little sponge with some specialized paper on top. Kind of reminds me of like a parchment paper, and that's your palette. And then you can reuse them if you need to. It says that if you can scrape it clean and reuse it. I've only gone through like a couple sheets, and I have a lot of them, so it does a really good job. They are reusable, and I've not had to waste as much paint. It's really nice. And I did a lot of oil painting for a long time, and then I got kind of away from acrylic. And so this is a nice way to kind of keep it, preserve it, be able to work it longer, that kind of thing. And I also wanted to try painting with the palette knife directly. And I'm asking a lot of this watercolor paper. First off, it's only like, I don't even know. It's only like 150 pounds, maybe. It's not that heavy of a paper. It would be much better to do this on a canvas paper probably, but I don't have any, and I was just pushing the limits of what I have. That's why I taped it down. For one thing, I wanted to create the border, and the other, I just thought it might help it from buckling, which it did. However, even after it dried, it was dry enough to pull the tape off, but not so dry that the acrylic was going to break if I peeled the tape back. And it kind of pulled some of the paper with it. So not sellable. Even at $1, I wouldn't want to sell it to somebody because, it's in a condition that isn't perfect for selling, My wife decided she wanted to keep it, and so I put it in a little sleeve, and now she has a little piece of art. It was an interesting experiment, though. Using the palette knife creates a really nice texture, especially on something that's small. You have to be, like, again, it forces you to paint loosely and impressionistically. And that's the kind of look I like when I paint. I do sometimes do realism style, like where it's a little bit more painterly, but less impressionistic. But for landscapes and things, this is my favorite way to do it. Just layering down color until you get something that resembles the reference that you're using. And it's a fun little challenge, I think. It kind of really forces you to think about planning, especially with acrylic, because it dries pretty quickly and you can't reactivate it once it dries. So yeah, you can layer it, but I mean, again, this paper, it doesn't like water. Despite it being watercolor paper, it isn't meant to have layers and layers of acrylic paint on it. That all said, I was just jamming to some music, just trying to get into some meditative state and relax and do something fun. It was a cool little experiment. It's something I'd like to keep going with. I do really like painting on these ACEOs. I did paint something very large in comparison. I haven't done a large piece in a very long time. And so, with the exception of my wife's Squishmallows, I hadn't painted a piece that was bigger than an 8x10 or even 11x14 in a very long time. So I got a 24x30 and made a big old fat landscape. But this has been a fun little experiment just to get just to see how far you can push an ACO. And I see a lot of people doing prints and things with them, but I mean, I'm not against that necessarily. I wanted to see if I could get that same kind of quality you would get from a large piece, but force it all the way down to a small little card. Again, pick your poison. Make sure that you're using something that can actually handle something like acrylic or oil. The watercolor paper doesn't really like it very much. I do have a mixed media paper. In the past, acrylic has been fine with. It does buckle a little, but it doesn't tend to tear. So I might try that again. But I gave it a nice texture. And I think I failed to put... Yeah, I think I failed to put medium in this because this came from an older piece that I'd already painted, and I didn't bother to put a medium in that. So I didn't think about it. But for the bigger piece, I did. So it has nice texture. But this texture doesn't hold because it dries and then it flattens out. Had I put the medium in there, the texture would still be there and it would look much better, I think. But I will show you the finished piece. You know, if I were to do it again, I would say canvas paper or some kind of backing, something that is the same size as an ACO, but maybe like a what is the word I'm looking for? Like a hard board, which is a sort of like a clipboard type material. Would work, or something to back it with. I mean, you could even make canvases that size. Something, take a canvas roll, glue down some canvas to an artboard or a hardboard and make a little mini artboard. That might be really fun to do. Yeah, then get those little tiny little easel guys and paint on that, right? But this was definitely needed. I wasn't feeling very inspired, so this was a nice departure. And sometimes you just got to mix stuff up. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.